Hi, everybody. It's Kimberly. I'm an eternal life student, which simply means human. At the end of the day, that really is the only title that we need. I think people are like walking books, a living library. We each have our own stories to share, and together, by sharing them, we can grow stronger. Today, I have a guest, Pete McCollum, who I'm very excited to hear about his story. Hi, Pete. How are you doing?
Great. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I know I was joking a little bit earlier, and I was saying how I may have to have more than one podcast with you, because you have such a wealth of knowledge and history to you that I think that people are going to find out that you have so much information to share. So I thought I would start off first with something I learned about you a little bit when I was reading your history, and it was quote that you had said that gardening has possibly saved my life. Can you tell us a little bit more about that quote and what it means to you?
You know what? It was accidental. Um, I had returned from a visit to America and I needed a hobby. And we had all these rocks. We had everything out in the yard because this is my wife's parents' house. It was given to us as a wedding gift.
Oh, wow.
And I looked around and I said, well, all the pieces are here. And it actually started as pure frustration. I was
Really?
having trouble finding a job, and I actually took all we had were hedge clippers. So
Hmm.
I took hedge clippers and I started cutting our grass and trimming everything. And when it was done, I was exhausted. I felt better. And my goodness, the yard looked nice. And my first job as a teenager was at the Landings golf course. So there was a time where I was actually this kind of masterful sculptor and everything. And I sort of felt that zeal again. So I started throwing seeds into the ground. I built a pond. I mean, it's like you get a lot of stuff wrong,
Mm, yes,
you
but you
know?
learn along the way, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. When something does sprout, you feel amazing.
Ah,
That was something I did. I caused it. So far as I could tell, I caused it, right? And then you
right.
just figure out, well, what caused this one to germinate? Sun placement. And I don't read. I don't have the attention span for reading.
Okay.
So when I'll learn from the interaction with the garden. So goodness, it's been like 5 years now, and I get more things right than wrong now. And I've got a pond and some nice running water to sit on the patio and everything. So it has turned in, and I have proof of it because I was actually at the doctor last week and my
Yeah.
blood pressure is good.
Oh, wow.
Well, so as stressed out as I am, I was waiting to hear I had high blood pressure. Nah. And I can almost 100% attribute it to working outside for sure.
That's wonderful. I've heard a lot of people say that gardening is therapeutic in more ways than one. And they people go out and they're digging in the dirt, and like you said, they're planting different things, but you know, at the end of it, you get to see the results. And I guess that kind of brings you fulfillment. Would you say that's true?
Well, now I have a place to sit that I created. That's a
Hmm.
pretty rad feeling
Yeah.
because I repurposed a bunch of stuff from the house. Like my daughter's playpen is
Hmm.
now like this little trellis for
Oh, cool.
butterfly pea flowers. And the butterfly pea flowers are now a shade for the patio. You could get, I try to repurpose everything because most of the time when I want to get out there, all I can afford is the dirt. If you go to buy fencing, if you go to buy rocks, no, that stuff is for
Oh,
what it
yeah.
is, it's unusually expensive. So I do my best, even with a broken pot. Well, it can be used somehow,
Oh, yeah.
take the pieces and ground it up or something like that. The goal out here is to prevent erosion.
Hmm.
So, because we've got so much rain. So that's use the broken pot to anchor the ground somehow or something like that. So even stuff when I'm being clumsy, or accidentally break something, I've got a broken watering can that's now the spout for my pond.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
even when I mess stuff up, I can kind of repurpose it into something. And I think that's the biggest thing that I enjoy is
Yeah,
that even mistakes turn into something. So now it's more like a work of art out there,
that's
honestly,
beautiful. Yeah,
because
no,
I've turned all these pieces of broken plastic into different parts of the garden now.
that's wonderful. I saw somewhere else, you'll always see me peeking over at my notes, where it said something like each flower is a victory, each new patch of green another part of healing. I really like that statement. And knowing that gardening had helped you. There's a couple things that I just kind of wanted to introduce to people that will help kind of enlighten them a little bit
Mm,
further about us and our
sure.
discussion. And I would say one, where are you from right now? Where do you live?
I live in Bangpli, Thailand. It is
Yes.
rainy, it is humid, and there needs to be a pause in this weather soon so I can get back to the aforementioned garden.
Of course, but it also brings a lot of sunshine too, which helps too, right?
It does, most seasons we have a balance, and anyways, it does take some work out of my hands.
Yes. So, another thing was that you have what's called AUDHD. How would you explain that to somebody else? What exactly does that kind of stand for?
To my knowledge, it's just when you smash together autism and ADHD.
Okay.
There have been other terms in the past. So as far as I know, this is sort of a blanket term, or a blanket term would be spectrum disorders. The thing
Okay.
is, I was born in 1980 and it's gone through so many different designations over time that I would almost say it's spectrum disorder or AUDHD. Either is appropriate.
Okay, great. And so, can you tell us a little bit about how you found out and your experiences from it and how gardening has also helped that?
That is a huge leap, but I will try to make it.
Okay,
When
go for it.
I was already diagnosed with stuff when I was 4. All right.
Okay.
So I heard so many different things growing up: OCD, Tourette's syndrome, hyperactivity. Maybe he's just a jerk, maybe he has an attitude problem.
Hmm.
Maybe he's on drugs. So I began to not worry so much about titles, as the titles never really changed how anybody treated me.
Right.
So I actually ran from the titles by joining the army, which did not work out at all. We're currently editing
Oh
that
my
book.
goodness.
And then I fled to graduate school, and I still hadn't quite, because that's when I found that diagnosis, graduate school, 30 years old. It
Okay.
was a doctor, and she even paused for the requisite tears at the revelation. She even knew what was coming by the look on my face. But that was the day I finally felt relief. Like, now I know my enemy. Now I know
Yeah.
what I'm fighting. Now I know what I'm up against, and I'm going to arm myself. I'm going to educate myself. And a lot of times you only find that out in real world situations. So I
Yes.
did my next drastic thing, and I got on a plane, and I ran from titles even more by becoming an expat. And then
Hmm.
nothing stuck. The social anxiety really affected my performance in the classroom, and I had to really retire basically.
Hmm.
And fortunately, I had an inheritance, so I
Oh,
was
good.
able to kind of chill, take
Hmm.
care of the house, still feel useful, still feel productive. And that's really where the gardening came in. It was an antidepressant. And I needed to go out there because I understood me. But now it was like, well, now I'm not making myself understood. Now that's the next step.
Right.
And I began to understand me more through gardening because I realized, dude, I am persistent. Above all else, I learned that I was persistent, and I don't quit. I took it really personally when those guppies died. I wanted to know why. I wanted to know what was going on. Then you learn about water oxygenation. Yes, thank you. You learn about water oxygenation and things like that. And sure, I could have read at first. I don't know why I'm that kind of person. I could have read in the beginning and avoided all these mistakes, but doing it the way I did it, I learned it by heart instead of by reading. And there are certain things that I think that's the best way to do it. I don't know. And I would when you put those broken pieces, like I had a bunch of planters that was broken,
Hmm.
were broken, but I hung them from my patio and I turned them into a filter for my pond. And
That's
then the
cool.
broken baskets are little hiding areas. So when they do give birth, the fry have a chance to survive now. I've taken all these things and it's like, see, you're not a screw up. You've taken broken things and made something beautiful. You've made a mosaic in your yard. And that's actually, if you came out here, it would look like a mosaic of little broken plastic things sculpted and placed just so.
That's awesome. That's really great, and I like the fact, you know, if you think of it like this, other people made you feel that way. You always had it in you to create great things. You know, it's not just the garden. It's you. You did this. I know you give credit to the garden, but you also have to give credit to yourself. That's the great thing. You've made this masterpiece, this artwork out there in nature. And I think that's wonderful. I really do. Um,
I mean, you're onto something because knowing that that kind of stuff was up here
mhm.
kind of makes me feel better about myself.
Yeah.
I never go out there with a clear objective at all. Most of the time, it's like I need exercise. I'm annoyed over something. I'm bothered over something, and I want to move rocks. I
Yeah.
don't even have a purpose for it. But then I start stacking the rocks, and all of a sudden it's lunchtime, and I'm like eating my sandwich, like, all right, what do we got? What did I start?
Right.
Second half of the day, I turn it into something, and then you know what? Wifey pulls up, and I'm just like, look what I did.
That's awesome. See, you've created something that wasn't there, and it's something that is tangible. You can see it, you could touch it, and you could show it off. And nobody can say you didn't
I
do
do like showing it off. I hate to admit how much I'll just be standing there with a shovel,
it.
like getting her stuff out of the car. Like, what?
Aw. No, that's what you definitely have to send some pictures so that I can see it, okay? I do want to
Sure,
see what
sure.
definitely.
I've got some brand new kale and I've got a single grapow and my daughter brought home a pea plant. And because it's
Yes.
the rainy season, yeah, it's popping out there. So I will.
Awesome. Now there was something else that I read where it had said that not only were you doing the gardening, you actually started to grow certain foods that you thought were helping you. Um, do you want to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Well, you know what? It's funny, okay? Because it goes back to young Pete. Do you remember those Time Life books? Those
Yes.
1-800. Okay, there was a Time Life book called The Healing Power of Herbs.
Yes.
And
Yes.
young Pete was like, what do you mean, like Dungeons and Dragons? Oh, word. I'm in. And so I told my parents about it. My parents were like, no, that's not how it works. And I was like, no, they got a
That's
book
how it
about it.
works.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And so during high school, it was one of my things. Once we got the internet, I did this ridiculously obsessive research about herbs. And I would keep these notebooks and I would write down every herb and what they did.
Oh, cool.
Fast forward 25 years later, and a lot of them are out there in my yard, and they are proven to help some of my symptoms. Honestly, butterfly pea flower
Hmm.
is for it's for relaxation. So if you make a just a nice light brew of butterfly pea flower and lemongrass, it has an extremely common effect. You got to take the time. Tea preparation is a little more labor intensive than people realize if you're growing the stuff. But
Right.
I've got those two, and I also I'm trying to grow some ginger because that's just universally
Of
medicinal.
course. Yeah.
But it has also been known to lower blood pressure. And
Okay.
so I literally have things that calm me down right there in my yard. Yes.
That's wonderful. See, so this garden is more than just art, right? It also
Oh,
has healing
it's also
power.
my last word, Kimberly. Let's not mince words, okay? It is my Pete knew
Right.
something, okay?
Yep.
But the more it goes, though, the more I realize, okay, stuff is in my hands now.
Yes.
If I'm not doing so well, I mean that's what this is, Kimberly. This because I'm so nervous. This is butterfly pea and
Oh,
lemongrass.
really? That's
This is
great.
that's what I've been sipping on the side because I've been so nervous about this
Oh,
podcast. So
well,
all
you
of
don't
my
have to
life,
be
a
nervous.
problem I've had is with control. And so feeling the control over my well-being is a very empowering thing. I could say that.
Yes, definitely. So, I wanted to kind of switch gears on the topic a little bit. Like I said, you are a man with a wealth of history. You've been through a lot of experiences and things like that. I'm gonna show them another side of you a little bit, and I'm gonna ask you about, let's see, cats, punk, rock and roll, and Carmen Santiago. What on earth does that mean?
That's the forthcoming book. All right, I've got a bunch of stuff going on because I can never do one thing.
Yeah.
But Catch Punk Rock and Carmen Sandiego, it's the title of a forthcoming book. I've done a satire about AUDHD. I've
Okay.
written a drama about AUDHD.
Oh, wonderful.
Catch Punk Rock and Carmen Sandiego is gonna just be like surreal and trippy and how the world looks through the eyes of a 5-year-old on Ritalin,
Oh,
you
wow.
know? And so those are the three things that kept me sane. That's why I titled it that. Carmen Sandiego, okay, I'm gonna date, if I haven't already dated myself, there's an old computer game called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? And it's a history game.
Ah,
All
okay.
right. And it's a geography game. And those games were the only things that were allowed in my house, educational. So Carmen Sandiego was just how I coped when I was young. In my 20s, cats is how I coped, and
Right.
throughout my life, punk rock is how I coped. So the book encompasses the
A
world
little.
through the lens of a young man who does not understand what's going on around him. And it's just supposed to be a message of hope, though, by poking fun of what's going on and satirizing on paper the things that happen to me. It's another way of coping. So that blog is my way of finally letting you guys know, okay, here's what's been going on.
That's great.
Because there are a lot of people I know that do not at all know where I've been.
Mhm.
And it's for a reason, but at the same time, I'm a little chuffed, as the British would say, that they're not curious because my student thinks I'm like James Bond. My
Oh,
student's
really?
like, you're like a movie because he knows like
Uh,
I'm just like disguised as a mild-mannered dude out here. But yeah, I've been down the road a couple of times and I'm bothered that no one's curious, Kimberly. It kind of hurts my
I
feelings.
know.
No one wants to talk about
I
gardening.
am curious. Okay, so there you go. Now's your chance to share your story with the world, and you got my curiosity definitely. Just a little bit that I read about, and just talking to you today. I know that there is so much for you to share with other people, and I feel honored that I get to meet someone like you. You do so much. I don't even know if I can say it all in the time limit that we have. You write, you do blogs, you were a teacher. You taught ESL, correct? If I'm correct, I
I
think.
did. I did.
See, um, you've traveled all over. Is it Army, Navy,
I
military?
was
What
a
were you?
journalist in the Army for it was 3 years, but it was quite a colorful service because I was a journalist.
I'm sure. Oh my goodness, journalism, of course. Um, music. Do you do any music besides listen to amazing music?
Oh no, I wish I had the focus. I would probably be a virtuoso. It's
Yeah.
something I've thought about.
Yeah.
I guess it's time to be like the middle-aged guitar playing dad. I guess I'm ready for it.
Yes. You're a dad as well. 4 years
I
old,
am.
your daughter, right?
Yes, she just turned 4 a few months ago. Yes, she is up and she's got
Goodness.
opinions.
So, I mean, yeah, a teacher, right? You were a professor, uh, um,
I was.
a gardener. I just too many different things that I know that you can share with people. But I know one of my favorite things is, and I don't know what you would call this, but an inspirer is what I would say. Someone who wants to give back with their personal story is someone who wants to give hope. And to me, that is an amazing person. Someone who's willing to be vulnerable enough to share their stories, no matter what anyone is going to think or say, um, because they know it's going to help someone else who's going through the same thing. So, for that, thank you very much for doing this. I know it's not easy for you, I know it's uncomfortable. You are doing amazing, by the way. And I can't wait to learn more. Um, so what is something that you would want to tell somebody who isn't sure if they have this autism ADHD diagnosis?
I would say don't worry about it. Just start examining bit by bit. Start examining your bad days. Start examining what causes your bad days.
Okay.
Never mind the titles because you're going to start looking for stuff and then you're
Mhm.
going to get kind of caught up in that. Start breaking down your bad days. Break down your bad days. Find out exactly where it began because it may not be the thing that made you pop. It may be something 3 days ago. All right.
Right.
And then number two, you need to figure out pretty quickly what the damage control is. All right.
Hmm.
Like I told you, for me, some T, B vitamins, sublingual B vitamins, something that's sort of an emergency relief, have those things available. Then you start talking.
Yes.
Start bouncing your ideas, not off of a person who's going to diagnose you. Don't
Hmm.
bounce your ideas off a person who's going to agree with you. Bounce your ideas off of a person who's going to say, all right, that's a little weird, but I understand it.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh.
And then start to gauge what constitutes a successful interaction as opposed to one that's not working. All right. Now, I could have sworn just listening to you talking that you had read Dr. Burns' book. Now, I can't come up with the title at the moment, but Dr. Byrne discussed this idea of socialization as a transaction. And there's three states of ego, right? Parent, adult, and child. And believe
Yes.
it or not, I read this when I was 19. And I thought it was so clever and everything. I still apply it to my interactions today because it finally makes sense,
Hmm.
right? So possibly understand what state of mind you're approaching a situation.
Yes.
Ask yourself where you are
Hmm.
mentally halfway through a conversation, like, all right, why am I slipping? Why am
Yep.
I splitting? Why am I shaking? That all takes time, but you need to break down where it begins.
Yes.
Titles do not matter until you start to get to know yourself and what's causing the problems. One of the things that I didn't know was making me irritable, proximity.
Ah.
Riding those subways in Bangkok was making me nutty. And so I would start in a good mood, but by the time I got to work, it was like, oh, are you looking at what? And I
Right, you
didn't
were
know
over
that
it.
proximity bothered me that much. I had no
Right.
idea
Uh,
until somebody brushed me And my mind actually went blank for a second, like blank screen. A person brushed me and I was like, where am I? Oh
Uh,
God. You know, but that's when I learned, okay, you want to avoid those situations and you got to have a contingency plan. That's the next step, contingency plan when you cannot avoid those situations.
yes,
It all takes time, though. Truly, it all takes time. And
definitely.
I hate to tell you this, but you're going to get it wrong. Just don't take it personally. It's
Yeah.
not helping anything. I took it personally for so long because taking it personally will ultimately result in you wanting to inflict yourself rather than integrate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I went through that as well. And how productive is it to try and inflict yourself in a country you're not even from,
Right.
right?
Well, these
I
are
mean, you
very
want to talk
wise
about
words.
candor. You want to talk about candor. I'm actually like confessing what a jerk I've been.
We all been there. So, um, don't feel like it's just you. We've all had our moments.
But there are times, though, where I was not able to forgive myself. And one of the things my doctor said is, you are going to take a long time to forgive yourself. Never mind the other people, you've probably already forgiven them. It's you I'm worried about. How long is it going to take to forgive you? And if I had to say step one, forgive yourself daily.
Yes,
Don't call
yes.
back those memories. Don't do that. Don't hash it out. How should I have sorted it out? Nah,
Mhm.
cousin, it's done.
Yes.
Now forgive yourself instead of trying to rewind and say, what could I have done better? Say,
You
you know
can't
what? I
change
forgive
it.
myself for that and I'm releasing it.
Yep, that's great. You really can't change it. The going backwards isn't gonna, all you're doing is poking at a wound.
It holds us
Instead,
back too. It
right?
holds us back.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to let you know it's almost time for us to end the podcast.
Sure.
So we have a couple minutes left. But one thing I did want to do is first to say thank you so much for sharing this information and to let people know that you actually have a blog if they're interested that they can go and look at AUDHD blog and they can find out more
WordPress.com. Yeah.
exactly.
Um,
I'll
I'm
have that
sorry, Kimberly.
included. No, that's okay. I'll have
I
that
didn't mean to
included
cut you
in
off.
the comments for you. For anyone who's interested to see the actual link, we'll have it included so that you can go and find it. Um, is there anything else you would like to say?
No, I just hope that this can be something positive. And as these things unfold, the books that I'm writing, the poems that I'm posting, I hope that everybody understands that there is a message of hope. Even when I'm being sarcastic, even when I'm poking fun at people, I want everyone to know that mine is a message of hope. You're looking at a dude who really, really, really tried hard to antagonize the world and is a much different person now. All right. So not only is change possible, but internal change is possible, external change is possible, and even how you handle your own obstacles, it is possible with persistence.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much again for being here with me today. I look forward to seeing this, and I would love to invite you back again if you're willing, because like I said, there's a lot more to you that I'd like to share for people to learn.
I'd love to. All right. It's been great doing this.
Great.
You've made it so easy. You've
Oh, thank you.
this is this has been, despite all the bugs, you've made it so effortless. So I have to thank
Thank
you as
you.
well. This has been truly freeing. You've done a lot.
Oh,
All right.
thank
So thank you, truly.